All right, welcome everybody to today's webinar by the IEA SHC Solar Academy and hosted by ISIS, the International Solar Energy Society. My name is Arabella. I am the Congress's Communications and Outreach Officer here at the ISIS HQ in Freiburg, Germany, and I'm going to give you a short introduction into ISIS and the work we do, as we have many new participants joining us on the webinar today. The International Solar Energy Society, ISIS, is a non-profit UN-accredited membership NGO founded in 1954. ISIS represents a diverse membership of academics, researchers, energy practitioners, consultants, students, businesses, and advocates. Our vision is 100% renewable energy for all, used efficiently and wisely. At ISIS, we work on several key areas to advance this mission. ISIS organizes two major scientific congresses, the ISIS Solar World Congress and EuroSun, on a biannual rotation. And since 2022, we are especially happy to organize EuroSun together with the IEA SHC, and we're going to come back to that congress in a bit. ISIS publishes two major journals. One is the Solar Energy Journal, which many of you will know, and we founded that in 1957. It's one of the oldest and most leading journals in the field. And since 2021, we have a new edition, Solar Energy Advances, which is a fully open access journal. We hold webinars once a month, which you are attending today, and we have several education initiatives geared to our young students. ISIS publishes a series of infographics, and since 2020, we have launched the Solar Energy Museum. So we invite you to join ISIS if you're not yet a member, and thank you for your support. Now, before we head into the webinar, a quick note on the Q&A session. We will have one cumulative Q&A session at the end of our presentations, and you can send in your questions anytime throughout the webinar. When you're sending your questions, please keep them short and precise, and please include the speaker who the question is for. Now, it is my pleasure to introduce you to our moderator for today, Bärbel Epp. Bärbel Epp is the founder and managing director of the German consultancy SOLERGY. She's responsible for the international newsletter of the web portal solarthermal.org, which reports exclusively about market and technology trends in the solar heating and cooling sector. And since 6 years, Bärbel is the SHC chapter author of the annual Global Status Report on Renewables published by REN 21. Now, I'm happy to hand over to you, Bärbel. The floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Arabella, for this kind introduction. Welcome also from my side. Good afternoon, everybody. Yeah, I'm happy to start moderating the webinar today, and I would like to start with a short presentation on the IEA SHC program. So let me share my screen. So I hope it's all seeable. Well, the IEA Solar Heating and Cooling Program is an R&D based program. It has 19 member countries and a number of 8 international organizations together with the European Commission. So you see that they cover a fair bit of the world. More than 200 experts group together and work on solar research-oriented subjects. So we have them listed here. You find water management, industrial solar heat, industrial water management, compact thermal energy storages. You have solar cooling, you have efficient solar district heating, solar neighborhoods, solar energy buildings. What does the Solar Academy has to offer you? Well, we do these quarterly webinars together with ISIS, as you have one today. The next one will be on the 21st and 23rd of June, and the topic will be solar heating and cooling markets and industry trends. You find these announcements always on the IEASHC.org Solar Academy website. There you also find videos with solar thermal experts that we have done on former events, or all the webinars that we have done together with ISIS are also recorded and openly accessed. The online and on-site trainings are always organized on request of the IEA Solar Heating and Cooling member countries and can cover different topics. We have done the past trainings in the Caribbean, China, South Africa, and UK. Well, where do you find more information? First, you can visit the website iea-shc.org, where each of the research topics have its own sub-page, so you can get good up-to-date information there. You can follow us on social media, or either Twitter or LinkedIn, and all further questions will be asked by the Secretariat, so welcome to send us if you have requests. Yeah, also a nice welcome and also invitation to the EuroSun 2022. As Arabella mentioned, it's a joint conference organized by ISIS and the IEA SHC. It's taking place in Germany, Kassel, a very nice city to be this September, because the nice art exhibition, the Documenta, will take place there as well. So you can combine that. That will be a nice gathering of, let's say, 300, 400 experts with a wide range of topics: solar architecture, solar electricity, solar heating. So pen in your conference paper until the 15th of April, and join us for the EuroSun in September. Yeah, so today's webinar topic is Global Certification Network. This is because the network was founded within the IEA Solar Heating and Cooling Program, and the person behind that is also our first speaker, Dr. Harald Drück. He is a really dedicated expert globally on certification. He chairs the Global Solar Certification Network as well as the Solar Key Mark Network, and he is in the board of directors of the European Solar Thermal Industry Federation, which is called Solar Heat Europe. But he also has a main job, and this is at the University of Stuttgart, where he heads the Research and Test Center for Solar Systems and head of R&D at the Institute for Building Energetics, Thermodynamics, and Energy Storage. So he will talk today about Unite for Solar Thermal, and he will introduce the new alliance forged between the Global Certification Network and the Solar Heating Initiative. So Harald, I'm looking forward to your presentation.
Thank you very much for the introduction, Bärbel. Also, a very warm welcome from my side to all participants from around the globe. And as mentioned, we are going to talk about the Global Solar Certification Network. And now I also have to share my presentation. And the Global Solar Certification Network is really something like unification for solar thermal around the globe. And the network itself consists of all important actors in the field of solar thermal technology. And these actors, they are, of course, oops, now what happened? These actors, they are on one hand, the solar thermal industry representatives that are the main stakeholder in our network, then the certification bodies, testing laboratories, and also inspection bodies. And the aim of our network is to facilitate worldwide cross-border trading for manufacturers of really quality solar thermal products, in particularly in the first step, solar collectors. And as you are a manufacturer, or if you are active in solar business, you might know that for different parts of the world, different test certificates, different scheme rules apply for subsidies or for building regulation and things like this. And our aim is to avoid retesting of solar thermal products and also to avoid re-inspection of the production line at the manufacturers when they enter new markets, in order to save costs, of course, to improve the quality, and finally to generate a larger market and also, of course, a better business for the manufacturers. And the way how we do it is that we use the already existing certification schemes for solar thermal products, and then we talk to the responsible persons. In some cases, they need to be a bit modified to achieve a mutual recognition of all these test reports and inspection reports based on individual certification schemes, but following, of course, the guidelines of the global solar certification network. So that means, in fact, if you have a test report that fulfills the requirements as described in the working rules of the global solar certification network, then this test report, and if also the inspection reports are fulfilling these requirements, then they will be mutually recognized. And of course, this can help to avoid retesting. And we are more or less active on the globe in the major markets. Like in Europe, we have a close cooperation with SOLERGY. We accept the reports. In the US with SRCC, for example, but also in Asia and Oceania. And Bärbel already mentioned it a bit. We were also established in the frame of 2 IEA tasks led by Jan-Erik Nielsen as operating agent and as also one of the key persons, or maybe you can also call it as the father of the global solar certification network. And this is this was task 43, more than 10 years back, and task 57. And today we are really established as an independent autonomous network. So there is no legal entity behind, so you cannot go to court with us, for example. So it's not a legal entity, but it's an autonomous network and a very powerful network. We have around 30 members, out of which are 23 to 24 formal members and 6 are supporters. And we also have some applications in the pipeline. And these applications, they cannot immediately become a member because we've established, especially for test labs and certification bodies and inspection bodies, certain requirements for joining the GSCN. So they have to go through a quality assurance procedure, and this takes some time. But this also really gives us the chance to only accept members in these critical areas like testing and certification and inspection that fulfill specific criteria. And for this, for example, accreditation according to ISO 17025 for test labs is not enough. And this is why these applicants are still in the pipeline. For manufacturers and supporters, membership is quite easy. You just go to the website. I will show the website later on, and then you can fill out the form and become a member. Fees are very limited, so it's in the range from 250 euros per year from industry representatives like manufacturers down to 75 euros for supporting members. Supporting members are, for example, private persons, but supporting members are also organizations like, for example, Solar Heat Europe or the Greek Solar Thermal Industry Association. So these are also some of our supporters. So how is the network organized? The network is organized in a way that it is operated by several committees or institutions. One are the 4 officers. Then we have a board with representatives from industry, from test labs, from certification bodies, and 2 representatives from these 3 groups from each continent. It's not fully equipped, the board now, so there are still a few vacant seats in some areas of the globe. So if you are interested and if you belong to these groups, then please contact us. We would be happy. And then we have several committees and working groups, like, for example, the Quality Assurance Committee. I already mentioned that is necessary to check the applications. Then we have 4 officers that are elected by the network. It's my person as the chairman. Then we have a vice chairman, which is Jean Martin from SRCC, the Solar Rating and Certification Corporation in the US. Our treasurer is He Tao from China, and our secretary is Harald Proschanik from Greenwan Tech in Austria. And then we also are very happy to have Marisol Oropeza as our marketing and public relations person. She takes care about all this PR stuff and the management. So if you're going to get an email or if you are interested in some information, then the contact point is Leopoldo Mico from Solar Heat Europe, formerly known as European Solar Thermal Industry Federation. He's also taking care about our money, so he's doing the accounting. And what is important to mention, the work by Solar Heat Europe is done free of charge. For sure, Leopoldo is paid, that's clear, but we are not charged by Solar Heat Europe because they see it as a contribution to our network, because they also believe in the success and in the importance of global solar certification. The Global Solar Certification Network has approximately 2 complete network meetings. In the past, it's clear they have been virtual in the last 2 years. Before that, we also had physical meetings. For this year, no physical meetings are planned, but maybe next year. If we do it, then we combine it with some other important meetings or events like Solar Key Mark network meetings or large conferences. And then we have around 4 meetings of the GSCN board. So how does the Global Solar Certification Network works? It works in a way that, as I mentioned, it's based on mutual recognitions of test reports and inspection reports, which are so-called 3-party certification schemes. And they consist of an initial type testing and a surveillance testing, and also an initial inspection of the factory production control, and also a periodical surveillance of these production lines. And all operating bodies have to be accredited. This is relevant for the test labs, but also for the certification bodies. And with regard to collector testing, performance and durability testing is carried out according to ISO 9806, which is the latest version of the international collector testing standard. So it looks a bit complicated, but I will explain you. How does it work? So there are several actors in this game, and if we look at them, then there are on one hand the manufacturer that produces the product, and then the product is tested by the test lab. The test lab is of course accredited by accreditation body, as also the certification body is accredited and the inspection body is accredited. These are the produced collectors. They are of course all quality checked by the inspector that checks the production process here and that issues an inspection report. The test lab issues a test report, and then these test reports and inspection report are accepted and checked by the certification body. Then a certificate is granted, and then also other certification bodies that are members of the GSCN will also accept the test report and the inspection report and also grant their certification schemes. So that means, for example, if you are here cooperating with, let's say, Dean Zertko for Solar Key Mark in Europe, then you hand in the same reports to SRCC to get the SRCC certification in the US. So that's the way how it is working. The organization we already mentioned briefly. We have the board, we have the manager, we have the quality assurance committee, and we have some working groups dedicated to specific peer groups like test labs or certification bodies, but also dedicated to specific tasks. For example, if there is the need to elaborate something, then we establish usually a working group. So now, why is it interesting for manufacturers? Because they can save money, and the savings, they are explained here. If you have a manufacturer and the manufacturer has 8 certified products, for example, 8 different types of collectors in 3 different regions, like for example, Europe, China, and let's say the US, then without the GSCN, the manufacturer has to pay the initial testing, he has to pay the annual inspection, and he has then in the first year, for this example, costs of 300,000 euros, and in the following years, costs of 12,000 euros per year for retesting and re-inspection. Within the network, the testing is only done one time, so this is only 1/3 of the cost. Test reports are, of course, reissued with an additional amount, but far away from 3 times testing. Then annual inspections are accepted. There has to be a small network fee, but anyway, amount is a bit more than half. So that means 61% of the money will be saved, and in the first year and in the second years or in the following years, approximately half of the amount. So this is why it's very attractive for manufacturers to join the network, to be part of our network, and to benefit from our network. So we also have some success stories we can present. The first success story is, of course, that the GSCN, after this initial phase as IEA tasks in the solar heating and cooling program, is established. It's running independently. We have harmonized already several testing and inspection and certification procedures between different regions, and we have also done very successful, or not we, but members of the network, especially companies, have benefit from the process and went for certification of their products in different regions. For example, Samler, a big manufacturer from Greece, and he will also be part, Harry Michalopoulos, of the network today and present his success story. But there are also other success stories like KBB, a big manufacturer originally placed in Germany, now in Tunisia, or Greenvantech, one big manufacturer in Austria, and several more. So it works and it is of benefit. And of course, development is going on, and this is our latest development, which was achieved last year. And this is the alliance between the Global Solar Certification Network and the Solar Heating Initiative. And the Solar Heating Initiative, this is the organization that is issuing the SOLERGY label. If you have not heard about it, then you will have the chance later on to listen to a presentation about the SOLERGY label and the Solar Heating Initiative. So we tried to team up with, or no, we didn't try. Of course, we tried, but we also succeeded to team up with the Solar Heating Initiative, because we both act on the globe. We both have the same goal to promote solar thermal, to establish high quality solar thermal products. And so we thought it makes sense to join forces and to act commonly. But of course, we are still independent, but we cooperate in several fields. For example, we have joint marketing and communication activities. And due to this alliance, there was also the need to relaunch our website. which we did last year. It's now a brand new website. I will show you a screenshot later on. And coming to the end of my presentation, I would really like to encourage you to participate in the GSCN, and the GSCN is interesting for everybody, predominantly, of course, for the industry, because industry members, they can really benefit from this global solar certification concept and avoid retesting and re-inspection, and hence save a lot of money. And also they have the benefit to save significant amount of money and time if they go for the SOLERGY collector label, because if you apply for all in a package, then it's done in a very convenient and smooth way. Then next aspect, for which target group it's interesting to join the network, it's the certification bodies, because the certification bodies that are participating in the global solar certification network, they will have the chance to attract a large number of international customers, and not only the customers from their region where the certification body is placed, because we act globally. Test labs, I'm also head of a test lab, is also interesting for them to join the GSCN, because there also as test lab you have the chance to attract large international customers. And as you know, testing is not only about price, it's also about quality, and it's also about the reputation of the test labs and things like this. So I think it's also very interesting if you run a test lab to participate in the network, because then you get access to these large customers. And also inspection and certification bodies can benefit, because then they can also have access to international customers in their region, and they can also use a lot of synergy effects. Now, already mentioned our new website. It's a brand new design, it's brand new content, also looking, you can see it here, on the alliance with SOLERGY. And if you are interested in visiting the website, it's gscn.solar. It's a relaunch of the website, so the address already existed for some time and still exists, but now the content is new. And finally, if you are interested in the network, of course, you can immediately join. You have to go to membership, and then you will find all information that is required to join the network. And if you are a member, you are also very much welcomed to attend our next Global Solar Certification Network meeting that will take place on the 11th of October this year at 2 p.m. Central European Summertime, which is UTC +2, as an online meeting. So it's also very convenient to participate. Duration will be around 3 hours maximum. So this leads me to the end. Thank you for listening. I'm already looking forward to your question at the end of our presentation session. But before going to the Q&As, I think we have some more presentations in the pipeline. And with this, I would like to give the screen back to Bärbel.
Yes, Harald, thank you so much. It was a very impressive introduction into Global Solar Certification Network, and I think we really have to thank all these volunteer, hardworking members of this network, as we learned that most of them are not paid, because it's a great service for the industry, and especially in times of global trade getting more important like nowadays. I think that it's a good service. Thank you very much, Harald, particularly also for your engagement in this. Yeah, well, now we go to the other side, sort of the partner that was already mentioned several times, you know, the solar heating initiative. And we have a tandem presentation. Marisol Oropeza, together with Sören Scholz, will hold the next presentation, and they will introduce the collector label SOLERGY. So Marisol is head of the consultancy MEDIS. Her core competences are strategic marketing, business development, and international project management. She's always bridging between Germany and Mexico. She is among the founders of the Solar Heat Initiative that promotes the SOLERGY label, among other things. She's also project manager at the Intersolar Mexico and board member of ANEX, the Mexican Renewable Energy Association. And her core speaker is Sören Scholz. He works since more than 20 years at DINCERTCO, a German certification body. He is head of product management and deputy head of the certification body. And he was really the one supporting the launch of the SOLERGY label from the very beginning in 2015. So I think both are very well placed to introduce this interesting label to us. And I give first the floor to Marisol. I'm looking forward to your presentation.
Thank you, Bärbel. Thank you very much for the introduction. I would like to show my presentation. I think you are watching it, right? So, well, this we can skip this. So I would just like to give a brief introduction to the Solar Heating Initiative, which consists of several companies and organizations that jointly strengthen the perception of solar thermal energy in the public sphere. If you are part of the sector, of the solar heating and cooling sector, you must be aware of the fact that there is still a lack of visibility to this sector compared to the PV sector, for instance. So all the companies supporting the initiative and the projects that we run want to do that, want to give more visibility to solar thermal technologies around the world, because this is a common problem that we face worldwide. We do this also voluntarily, independently, and by conviction. And the main two things that we do are technical advice to different projects and organizations, as well as lobbying. And these activities are performed by Stefan Abrecht, who is also one of the persons who started the activities of the solar heating initiatives, and you have perhaps heard from him in different fora or have seen several articles from him. So he's in charge of that, and he is doing a lot of projects and doing a lot of lobby work for the solar thermal industry. And myself, I do the marketing and public relations for all the projects related to the solar heating initiative. We do this also internationally in different languages, the languages that we can handle. And as you may see with the graphic that I put here, is like to engage in a different kind of communication so that it becomes also more easier for people to understand what we do as an industry. And two of our projects are the heat changers. Maybe many of the heat changers are already here, which is a project joining, or let's say given a common image to the heating industry and giving a common brand to everyone working in this industry. So each one of you, just because you're also here and you're interested in the topic, could also be a heat changer. We do a lot of networking. We have different actions. I can show you some things later. But the second project, it is the project that we are dealing with in this presentation, is the collector label SOLERGY. This was actually the project which initiated the activities of the solar heating initiative back in 2015. This is a voluntary label to show what's the contribution of the solar collectors to the heating supply. And it has several important aspects that I would like to show you here. If you would like to follow the activities that we do in these two projects, here I give you the information, which we are very active in social media, and we also have a website. For the SOLERGY label, you can find the information about the label in 3 different websites. The first one is the Solar Heating Initiative website, the second is the GSCN, and the third one is DINCERTCO. So you can have the updated information always there. So why we do this? Why is this collaboration taking place together with the GSCN? Well, the initiative launched the SOLERGY label in 2016 in Germany, and it's valid for all Europe because it's based on the collector certification scheme SOLERGY mark. But we also developed a scheme for other regions, such as North America, Oceania, and Asia, together with GSCN, because they were the ones supporting the project from the very beginning. So now, let's say we have prepared, or we have a family of collector labels which could be implemented in different continents. So it made a lot of sense to join forces with the Global Solar Certification Network, because it gathers the most relevant solar heat certification schemes worldwide. So this is the perfect match, because the SOLERGY label bases on current and valid collector certification schemes, also acknowledged by the Global Solar Certification Network. So I would say it's the perfect match. And together, we decided to team up to bring both collector certification schemes and the SOLERGY label forwards worldwide. And this is like the first visual where you could really see that, no? That we do this together, and we try to give also more visibility to solar heating collectors and in general to solar heating and cooling technologies. So we started this collaboration already, or these discussions, a long time ago. And by the end of last year, we made the decision to collaborate, and we just recently announced it. So now it's possible to come to the GSCN and request for information about the SOLERGY label. We started in Europe already. The labeling in Europe is running, and we will start doing the rest of the regions. What do we want to do together? Together, we want to show how much solar collectors can contribute to a CO2-free heat supply in different locations and at different temperature levels. As you may know, every solar collector has a different efficiency depending on the level of irradiation, because it's located perhaps in a different place. And this is exactly what we want to show, that they are suitable for different types of applications, for different types of temperatures, according to the location, and also according to the technological development. And this visibility is very important for us. How do we want to do that? We want to do that taking existing collector certification schemes acknowledged by the GSCN as basis. So the SOLERGY label itself is not a certification, it is a label which reflects much of the content of a collector certification scheme. Therefore, we always need a collector certification as a basis. This is more or less something that we would like to show very briefly in these two infographics. On the right-hand side, you would see the label itself, one of the labels. There are different combinations according to the location, if it's Europe, if it's North America, or another continent. There are different temperature ranges. We start with 25 centigrades up to 75. And as you may know, the lowest are more suitable for perhaps swimming pool heating, and the highest are more suitable for solar process heating, for instance. And the locations are shown here on the label, and they are based on the collector certification. That's why it's important. As you can see on the label, on the left-hand side, we have the SOLERGY mark, because this is a label for the European market. Okay. So more in detail, you see here some of the elements, or the most relevant elements of the label. The idea is to have this label for marketing purposes, so that collector manufacturers or system integrators can use this label to show their clients how much the collector, or how well the collector uses solar radiation according to the location and according to the temperature level that you would like to have, right? So we have created a different wide set of infographics to explain how the label works, and all these materials can be used by the manufacturers or the companies who apply for a SOLERGY label, and they can use them also in their communication materials. So this is also very important because it's part of this education duty that we have as part of the solar heating and cooling industry towards consumers, so that they do informed choices when selecting a collector, that they know that they are going to have heat, energy for heat, and this is what we want to make visible, right? And the other efficiency labels, it's about how much energy the device use and its primary energy. And here's how much energy the collector could generate, which is actually the big difference between an efficiency label and the collector label SOLERGY, because it delivers energy and CO2-free energy, which is actually very important. So it makes the contribution of solar collectors to a cleaner and independent heat supply more visible. And in general terms, the label says how well the solar radiation is used. The higher the rating, as you can see here, from the lowest A- up to AAA, the higher the rating the collector, the higher the yield per area. This also means that the available area is used much more efficiently. And these are some of the aspects that we as an industry would like to highlight, right? The solar heating technologies are really advanced and can deliver a lot of CO2-free energy. And with this, I am finished for the first part, and my colleague Sören will continue. So Sören, you say it next, and then I can click on the presentation.
Thank you very much, Marisol, and for your presentation so far. And now, as she has explained to us the intention of the SOLERGY label and also the content of the label, what is behind the SOLERGY label, and I will show you now how the SOLERGY label works. And next, yeah, exactly. What Marisol already mentioned was that the SOLERGY label is not a certificate; it's just a registration based on a valid product certificate. And she already mentioned that we, in the Global Solar Certification Network, we have different recognized schemes, certification schemes, which are part of the Global Solar Certification Network and which form also the basis for the registration. So the SOLERGY registration itself, it is based on the valid product certificate. And we will issue a collector output data sheet with the technical information about the annual efficiency of the product. And in the next step, we can, if you click on the next step, please, then we can, based on the collector output data sheet, we can issue the SOLERGY label themselves, which will be which will include the information of an individual collector on the individual collector. Next slide, please. There is a similar approach to the classical product certification. The classical product certification is known already in Europe, for example, for the solar key mark certification. The solar key mark certification on the left side is divided in different steps. You will have an inspection of the factory production control of the manufacturer. You will do the collector test. The result will be a test report, the data sheet by a testing laboratory. This document will be assessed by the certification body, and if everything is fulfilled, the certification body will grant the right to use the solar key mark, for example, and will also, of course, issue a respective certificate. On the right side, you can see the steps for the SOLERGY label registration. The first step will be the verification and the collector output data sheet by a specific person. Marisol has already mentioned Stefan Albrecht, who will do this. He will check the technical information on the data sheet. Sometimes there might be some mistakes in, and he will do the preparation of the label itself. The certification body will do the final conformity assessment of the registration and will issue finally also the labels per collector subtype. Next slide, please. As Marisol already mentioned, we have started in Europe in 2016 based on the SOLERGY mark certification scheme, and currently we are the only certification body granting the SOLERGY label. And today we've got 24 companies having applied for the SOLERGY label. There are 53 registrations and more than 170 labels on the market. But we wanted, of course, not to be the only one. Marisol and also Harald has mentioned the intention to go global. And we have opened the certification scheme, developed it, we have added some further regions of the world and also make it possible for other certification bodies to join this system. And currently we are working together with North America, with SRCC, and this will be launched in 2022. And we are working also for Asia and other regions in the world to join this system. Next slide, please. Who can apply for the SOLERGY label? There are different ways to join the system. Of course, there are sometimes manufacturers with own brands, so collector manufacturers who certify, who sell the products and certifies them under their own brand. This is a typical applicant for the SOLERGY label. There are also, on the other hand, also OEM manufacturers who produce solar collectors but don't sell them on their own brand, but they are also possible for them to join the system. This is a business-to-business field, but this is possible. And also, of course, in the third step, OEM customers, companies that don't have an in-house collector production, they don't produce the collectors on their own, but buy collectors from manufacturers and sell them on under their own brand. They also can apply for the SOLERGY registration. Click, please. Yeah, so the requirements are, as mentioned before, a valid collector certificate, for example, of the SOLERGY mark, SRCC, watermark, and so on. Of course, the collector test report according to the ISO standard 9806 and the respective data sheet. And we also included to be part of the system, to be a member of the Global Solar Certification Network for example, for the certification bodies. Next slide, please. Here's one example. If you have, for example, a collector with two subtypes, means two sizes of the collector, and you have currently a SOLERGY mark certificate and you want to sell your product also in the US, you need a second collector certificate. You ask, for example, for the SRCC certificate, and you need a second collector certificate for the region of North America. This means that also, of course, the manufacturer needs to have a quality management system, take into account the relevant aspects of 9001 standard. You will then apply for SOLERGY registrations for the two regions. One region is Europe, for example, and the other region is then the United States. And you will get for the two sizes of your collector in total 4 SOLERGY labels, and can use these labels for the different regions in the world, but always based on, ideally in based on one inspection report and based on one test report, and so you can get the market access to the specific regions in the world where you want to sell your products. Now I will give back the word to Marisol, who will show you the last slides, and thank you very much for your attention so far.
Thank you. I will go very quick through the next slides because it's information that you may also request by email in case you're interested in getting your collector label. We have a fee scheme And of course, there are different discounts according to the number of continents that you want to register. Also, we have a welcome deal in case you are still not member of the GSCN or still not member of the Solar Heating Initiative. The thing is that it's important to know that for each type of company, manufacturer, OEM manufacturer, or OEM client, there is a discount, since this is also something that we are launching internationally. From the second year onwards, we also have these license fees, and these have or give you the right to use the label, and of course to be also member of the GSCN and of the Solar Heating Initiative. So you will have different options according to the regions and according to the type of client that you are. So in case you are interested, just come to us and we will do the explanation in detail. So in order to finish the presentation, I would just like to reinforce this message that the GSCN and the SOLERGY label bridge the gap. And which gap? The gap which means that there are some regions in the world or some countries where there is no established national or regional collector certification, but still there are companies who have a certificate perhaps from other region. Let's say a company in Mexico has a solar key mark certificate or an SRCC certificate because they want it. So they can get a SOLERGY label and they can use it also in Central America and Mexico and the US and Canada if they would like to. So if we manage also to have the Mexican certification scheme on board, well, we can do that. If not, this would be a way to join forces and also use the certifications that the manufacturers already have if they are acknowledged by the Global Solar Certification Network. So SOLERGY can also be seen as a uniform basis for subsidies. You know how important it is that politicians know that the quality of the collector is a good one before granting any subsidies. So this could be also a way to ensure that the collectors being granted for subsidies have a corresponding certification or are based on a collector certification. And additionally, it could be also acknowledged as part of the criteria for a solar obligation program, for instance. So these are some ideas that we will have and that we will explore in the next months to bring more quality products in the market and to make them visible to the end consumers. Last but not least, we would like to invite you to be part of this global community of Solar Heat, of the alliance that stands for quality, confidence, and transparency, and of the movement for a higher share of solar heat in the global heating market. As you know, solar heat creates independence, and this is what we need the most right now. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Marisol. Excellent. A very good presentation. I think you got really far in these 7 years of promoting, 6 years of promoting this SOLERGY label, and it's great to hear that you will go global. Perfect. So our last speaker, and please hand in your questions. We have already a fair bit and we will raise them all after the last presentation, comes from industry. And I think that really rounds up what we have heard. We have started at research with Harald, and then we went into certification and marketing, and now we have also the industry view on certification in general and SOLERGY in particular. So I welcome Harry Michalopoulos. He is the managing director of Samla Solar, one of the leading companies in Greece in the field of manufacturing solar water heaters. He is vice president of the Greek Solar Thermal Industry Association and member of the board of the certification network. So he will tell us his experiences from the industry side regarding the Global Solar Certification Network and SOLERGY. So Harry, I'm looking forward to your presentation.
Hello, everybody. Thanks, Babel. 1 second. I hope you can see my screen. Do you hear me? Sorry. Yeah. Okay.
Yes, perfect.
Okay, good. Our company is a solar collector and system manufacturer which is exporting in more than 40 countries. And our factory is located in Greece. So we had a lot of challenges to face in order to expand our activities furthermore. For instance, we had, let's say, there were some problems that we had to overpass, like certification that were required in different geographical areas. For instance, in Europe, which is required the SOLERGY mark, in the United States with RCC. Also, we had to face the problem of the increased cost to certify the products on each area. And also, we had to fight against the increased time to complete the certification on each area. These were very important, let's say, problems we had to solve in order to expand our activities in other areas and a worldwide level. What was the solution? Actually, GSCN was really it was really a solution for us. Our collectors were already being certified by SOLERGY mark. So through the GSCN network, we obtained the SRCC and Energy Star certification, and this happened really very fast with let's say low cost. And it was really very simple, as no retesting or no reinspection was required. Imagine that in less than 30 years, we started selling our products from Greece to the United States. That was really impressive. Then our experience regarding using the SOLERGY. It is really an important tool for us, as it really helps our clients to make the right decision about the technology they want to use. Also, it's very easy for them to understand how efficient are our collectors. Then, of course, they can understand and they can compare the renewable heat which is produced. And of course, also depends on the geographical area. They can understand the energy output in different climate areas. That has, let's say, that has increased our company's image, the logo itself, and of course has increased a lot our sales in different markets. Thank you so much.
Welcome everybody to this Q&A follow-up session for the IEA SHC Solar Academy webinar on the Global Solar Certification Network. I think we are good to start, and I'm going to hand over to our moderator, Bärbel Epp.
Thank you very much, Arabella. Also, welcome from my side. Good afternoon, good morning, wherever you are. We welcome very much the Asian participants, and we hope that you enjoyed a lot the recording. We had a great Q&A already on Tuesday when the webinar was recorded the first time, and you are very welcome now to hand in your particular questions as well, while we will sort of look into some questions we had also on Tuesday and which are relevant for this topic. We are here together with all the speakers, the 3 speakers, and 4 speakers, sorry, because we had a tandem. And I would like to start with Harald and ask him to explain a bit more how the development of the ISO 9806 was, you know, like between the 2013 and the 2017 version. What improved and what was changed? Please, Harald, go ahead.
Thank you very much for this question, Bärbel. I think, or I expect that at least some of you know that ISO 9806, which is the International Collector Test Standard, is quite old. It already exists, I would say, for several decades, and it is revised from time to time. And the latest revision was done a few years ago. With the change from the 2013 to the 2017 issue of the standard, and the major changes that were implemented during this revision were related to to so-called WISC collectors. WISC stands for wind and infrared sensitive collectors. It sounds a bit academic, but what is behind is it's typical swimming pool absorbers, for example, or other uncovered collectors where you do not have a transparent cover, and then of course the sensitivity of the thermal performance on the wind speed is much more significant because there is no thermal decoupling through this transparent cover, and also the absorber itself is in a radiation exchange with the environment, and this is why they are called WISC collectors now, and they have to be treated in a special way with regard to testing and performance reporting. For example, performance has to be stated as a factor of the wind speed, things like this. And then the standard was also opened for so-called PVT collectors. That means hybrid collectors producing electricity and heat. So these, I think, are the most significant changes during the revision.
And how about concentrating collectors? Are they covered in the ISO standard already?
Yes, concentrating collectors are also covered. We also had a very good and close cooperation with IEC TC117. IEC is the one standardization organization working in the field of electricity, and TC117 from the IEC is dealing with solar thermal power plants. And there, of course, one key element are concentrating collectors. And we thought, as both at the first shot produce heat, it makes no sense that there are different test standards. And so we worked together with them to also integrate the testing of concentrating collectors, also concentrating collectors with high concentration ratios, into the new version of ISO 9806.
Okay, perfect. So we have a couple of questions to Marisol. I think the SOLERGY label was well received by our participants, but we have somebody who wants to know whether, you know, the costs of energy will be also captured by this metric.
No, the label is only for the collector, which is the motor of a system. And in order to get the cost of energy, we would have to calculate many other factors, including the whole system. So the label does not give this metric about the cost of energy.
Okay. How about extending the label now to India, Australia, you know, like countries like this? Are there already collector manufacturers applied from these regions to the label to adapt it to their products?
Still not. I mean, if they would be in Europe, like they can apply for the label in Europe, because this label is based on the solar key mark. So if they have a solar key mark certificate and they would like to sell collectors in Europe, I think they could apply for it. That would not be a problem. They can contact InCircle. However, if they want the label for their own region, like Asia or North Africa or other regions, they will have to apply for the label in that region. And we have developed the concept, the methodology, and the label itself. However, it's still not implemented. So we're looking still for cooperations with certification bodies and with the certification schemes, so we can actually implement the label. At the moment, the label is only implemented in Europe, and it's coming now in North America and Central America, because we are cooperating already with SRCC. And for the other continents, that's what we want, cooperations with other organizations so we can implement the label.
Okay, so maybe we pass this question also to Sören. I mean, you are sort of head of a certification body. What does it mean? I mean, you took the role in Europe to adapt the SOLERGY label from the very beginning. So what would this mean to be a certification body, let's say in Australia, to adapt the SOLERGY label there? You have to unmute.
Sorry. Thanks for this question, Bärbel. As you know, we were convinced of the SOLERGY label from the beginning, and we really supported the SOLERGY label, and also we're convinced to open the system for the global and to let the SOLERGY family grow. And of course, we are currently working on adapting the scheme rules with the rules for the SOLERGY label, for granting the SOLERGY label to other regions, to other continents, and also Australia will be part of the family. And as Marisol just mentioned, we try to wanted to focus with the United States, with Northern and South America. And then, of course, we look for the next regions like Australia and to see where the need is, and then to adapt the rules. And the label is available so far, but we wait for the customers and let the family grow.
Okay, perfect. How about system approach? We were asked whether, like SOLERGY label can be adapted also to systems. Do you have an idea on that? Because at the moment, it's only a collector-based certificate.
Currently, it's really available for the collector, the motor, as Marisol mentioned, and system is currently not planned, but we start with the collector and see what we need for the future. But it's a collector label so far.
It's a collector label. So, Harry, your sales in Greece, I think they are to a very high extent on thermosiphon systems. So you still use the label within the thermosiphon system for your collectors if you deal with new customers?
Yes, you're right. The SOLERGY label is applied to the collector, which is obviously part of the thermosiphon system. So indeed, we do not have any problem to apply to the system itself.
Okay. So what does it play? Does it play a role? I mean, if you enter markets which are outside the normal scope of, our SRCC key mark world. I mean, Marisol mentioned that in her presentation that it can be a chance if you enter markets without label yet, that this really convinces resellers or even end customers for your products. Is this what you have experiences with?
Yes, for sure. This is, let's say, beside the technical details which are described in the label, it's also a marketing tool for us. So it's, I could say, the ideal tool to convince the customers that we are talking about a high quality product, which belongs in a family, let's say, of top quality products. So indeed is very helpful. And it's very easy to convince them that, look, this is something that belongs to let's say, to something global, something very big, let's say.
Mm-hmm. So it's really and gives you some authorization and some qualification. Good. So how about your situation as a manufacturer in these really stressy times of increasing materials and shortages of materials? How did you cope as an industry in Greece with this situation last year? Or still, I mean, it's still ongoing.
It's an ongoing situation, unfortunately. Look, to be honest with you, there is nothing, there's not a lot of things we can do. We're just suffering, I think, with the rest of the world. But okay, we have tried to organize better our company. We have unfortunately increased a lot our raw material stock, and of course we try to communicate and cooperate better with our customers to get a better forecasts and better understanding of their needs and especially their coming needs.
Okay, so better planning is very important these days. But I mean, the Greece industry did a record year last year. They exported 32% collector area more than 2020, which is really an amazing congratulations for that. How? Why?
I think, okay, it's let's say for us, it's let's say the solar thermal business is in our DNA, let's say. Yeah, we are for many years in this market, in this sector, so we are doing our best, and most of the companies they have really let's say they are trying to export even more, so therefore we've seen these results.
I heard that you sort of had the chance because some Chinese companies were really kept with extremely high transportation costs. So is it that in some international markets you got market share from the Chinese, which were really not able to ship last year because of container lag and really high transportation costs?
Yes, from one side, yes, it is a parameter that helped us. But don't forget that we also have the same problem. For instance, if we want to ship products in South America, for instance, we have similar problems.
Mm.
You know, it's a period that situation is difficult. You know, from our side, we try to be more competitive, to try to be more flexible. So probably this is the reason that we do something good.
Okay. Yeah, we have another question here, a more technical one for Marisol regarding the label. Does it consider the lifespan energy amount, like the CO2 footprint that a collector produces, or only, well, an annual one?
No, actually it is just the collector is based on, I mean, the goal of the collector is to show how well the irradiation is used. And it's not considering the whole life cycle of a collector. So it's about the output of the collector, the potential output. And it's actually only for this part of the system. If we want to consider also the CO2 carbon footprint, well, of course, you will have to consider many other aspects. And therefore, it's just about the energy efficiency yield from the collector.
And it refers to a year output, because this is what is given in the certificate. Okay. So how about extending the label to a PVT? Because Harald mentioned that PVT is really covered by the standard now. So is it planned to extend the SOLERGY label also to PVT products?
Yes, for sure. We have already considered it in this new version of the label. Since we do the cooperation with the GSCN, we take the opportunity to update the methodology behind the label. So now there is also another temperature range, which is lower, so 25 degrees, and also the option for PVT collectors. So we will consider also the electrical part of the collectors. I know that it's already considered, so now we need to implement it as well.
Oh, very good. Okay, so Harald, another question for your side. We were asked whether there's any software recommended to test the virtually designed collector so that it gets a bit easier to designing and manufacturing and improving collectors before you even spend a lot of money on testing. Can you advise on that?
Yes, I can. So virtual design collectors can maybe also be tested virtually somehow. And yeah, there are different options to do this. And the very basic equations, they are already described in Daffy Beckman, the standard book for solar thermal engineering, which was issued already decades ago, but revised and updated continuously. So there you find equations, basic equations, how you can determine, in this case, not the power curve, but the efficiency curve of the collector based on assumption for different parameters, like, for example, the emissivity and absorptance of the selective coating or the transmission of the transparent cover and all these things. This is one way to do it. Then also some research organizations, like, for example, the University of Kassel or IEA Intec in Austria, they also have developed their own tools to do this. And also we at IGTE, Institute of Building Energetics, Thermodynamics and Energy Storage at the University of Stuttgart, we had a project that we really called VirtCol, so it stands for Virtual Collector Design. And this is also based on such an approach. The approach we follow is that we do really detailed CFD modeling of the complete collector. And then we perform what we call a virtual collector test. That means the collector is not built and tested on a test facility. It's a virtual test. So we apply the ambient conditions like solar radiation and fluid inlet temperature and mass flow on the CFD model and calculate the outlet temperature of the collector. And then we have more or less the same data as we also get from a real measurement of the collector. And then we can also use all the standard evaluation tools for the determination of the collector power curve, and also determine, for example, the collector parameters and also the annual collector output according to solar mark conditions with the XenoCalc tool.
Okay, interesting. Whoever has, again, questions to that, I think Harald's email was mentioned at the end of his presentation, so you can contact him also directly. So I think there are hardly any new questions. There's one for Sören still. You know, Sören, maybe you can explain a bit clearer now again from the collector parameters, which are originally calculated during a test certificate procedure, like A1, A2, you know, the typical coefficients. How do you get to this yield factor, which is given in the second page of the certificate and which is then used in the SOLERGY label? Maybe you can explain that a bit. This is then the last question of our Q&A today.
So what we want to avoid is double test, double calculate, or double certification. So the SOLERGY label itself is only a registration, and we take the values of a valid product certificate. For example, for the solar key mark, you know, it's the data sheet which we use for, within the solar key mark certification. This data sheet will be checked if all the values which are in the data sheet are plausible, if they are correct. So sometimes there might be some small mistakes, and this will be verified. And then the values of the data sheet will be used in an Excel tool, and we will calculate in an automatic way the values of the SOLERGY label, and then the SOLERGY label will be developed or will be created with the results of this calculation. And also this data sheet for the registration will be developed with the outcome of this Excel tool. But there is no further tests or something like this. It's on top registration, and all the values which are in this data sheet for the SOLERGY registrations are exactly the data which are part of the label, which Marisol described in her presentation. And there we want to avoid another certificate, something like this. So on the left side, we have the product certificate issued by the certification body. And on the right hand, you have got the calculation of the SOLERGY label. And so we want really to avoid double work and double values. So it's separated things.
Okay, good. Yeah, I think it was really plausible again that there was a high heap of work being done, a lot also voluntarily on the backside of creating as well the global certification network and the SOLERGY label. So I thank particularly the actors which are online today for this great engagement over many, many years. And I think this is a very important step now that both these global initiatives are working together. Great, thank you for joining us for this Q&A, also from other parts of the world. I will hand over now to Arabella for some last housekeeping announcements, and I wish you all a great rest of the day. Thank you and bye-bye.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Bärbel, and thank you very much to all of our speakers for going through this Q&A session with us. And thank you, of course, to our audience for joining us. As Bärbel mentioned, just some quick last housekeeping items. We get a lot of questions about the webinar recording. Yes, this webinar has been recorded, and you will be able to see that recording on both the IEA SHC Solar Academy homepage as well as on the ICES homepage in a few days. So we always need a few days to edit them, and then they will be there for you. And you can also find the presentations given by the panelists on that page. A reminder to any ICES member who might be on the call, you already have access to the ICES webinar archive, and there as well you're going to find that recording. And now for my final announcement before we close. It has been mentioned a few times throughout the webinar already, but I want to remind everybody that we have just launched the call for papers for EuroSun 2022, and ICES and IEA SHC are organizing this conference together. So we are looking for your newest and best work. Please submit your abstracts by the 15th of April, and you can find more information on the conference on our homepage, which is eurosun2022.org. And with that, I'd like to close. Thank you, everybody, for joining us, and we will see you next time for a next IEA SHC Solar Academy webinar. Bye, everybody.